in 2014, I made a short film, and that film went to Cannes. Um, so, because before, as an artist, my practice involved with a lot of video making and moving image work. So I love film, but making film is almost like a dream for me because I know nobody in film business, and I've been making artwork for over a decade. So really, by that time, it was just a dream. So when the short film went to Cannes, it's kind of opened a new window for my career, and I was getting to know some of the film people. Like I met my agent, and also I get to know some of the European producers. So by that time, everybody was asking, "Oh, do you want to make your first feature?" I said, "Wow, that's a big thing." First, of course, I love to, but you have to think about my career as an artist because I've been doing reasonably well as an artist, and it's a long career for me. I've been spent over 10 years building my career as an artist, so I know making a film. That means okay, I somehow I have to give up something because I can't just split my day into half. Half of the day I just making my work, and then half of the day just writing script. So I said, yeah, that's definitely something very intriguing, very interesting. Uh, but first, I have to think about it because there's a price you have to pay for it, and secondly, I don't have a story yet, and there's no story make me feel okay. I can dedicate next 5 6 years, even longer time into a project. So I said, okay, just give me some time. Maybe I can sleep on that idea, and maybe I can find a story. So after Cannes, I went to London. I did my solo show in London. So one day after the opening, I was sitting in the hotel. I got nothing to do. I was bored. So I was flipping through the magazine, and I pick up GQ, and there was a feature story inside GQ, which is I think over 10 pages, very detailed. That was this story. That was a true event. So I found it very interesting, and I had so many questions. But consider my career as an artist first. My first impression is, oh, maybe I can do something about this event. Maybe I can make my next solo project based on this true event. That's how I get into it. So I got back in Beijing. I spent 6 months on research, just doing my own kind of research, going through everything, anything I can find on the internet around that story. And slowly, I just find, oh, maybe art is not the best language for this event. And that's where slowly, the idea of film start to pop. So any story you read, I'm sure that your first impression is, wow, how could this happen? And by that time, I think your first impression is, okay, what's the truth? That's the same for me. But then the deeper I went into it, I just found, oh, wait a moment. Maybe it's not really important about whether it's true or not. But so you start to look at the people rather than look at the event, trying to find out, okay, black and white, who's fault, who has done what. So you start to stop pointing finger and blame people or blame the system. The more you look at it, you just find out the whole event is kind of ridiculous. Um, and almost hard to believe. And slowly, my attention is I shift my interest into onto the people, and you start to discover something is like, oh, uh, what's the relation between them? And and at the end, it's all about human relationship, how we trust each other, why we trust each other, and you start to discover those very gray area of human being, and you can't really define that into black and white, and that's the most interesting part. And once you start to look at those, and slowly I find, okay, maybe I can start to understand how this man can end up like this, how people around him can end up like this. So I kind of reduce this because it's a kind of social event in Sweden, and almost everybody knows about it. And even so, to some sense, it's like I think it's everybody participate into making this so-called serial killer. So I start to, so it's massive, it's very big. Of course, you can do a film about that sort of scale. It's like a very big social structure, social event. But then I find it's pointless because my focus is I start to focus on the people. So I kind of reduce the scale into a very small story just between the police, the therapist, and the patient. So that's how I start to think about the direction of adaptation, you can say, or that's where my inspiration coming from. So at the end, a lot of things are fictionalized in my script because um, those of information you're almost impossible to find out because people refuse to talk. Even when they talk, they trying to picture something else. Because I read a lot of interview as well. Um, so it's not really about truth, but it's really about how I understand uh, how these things, how this man can end up like this. So um, that's why in the beginning of the film, you can see, okay, I put some text there. I said this is just inspired by something rather than based on a true event because it's mostly, I think, it's all my imagination. Um, and I think that has a direct relation to my own experience and it's how I understand these things. No, I didn't. I didn't talk to anybody involved in that event. So mostly it's by a lot of documents and a lot of reading research, also a lot of background research like the psychiatric uh, therapy practice in Sweden and also generally from um, around the world by that time. And also, I think there's one character, even just a side character, uh, uh, Dinimo, the 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 old lady, Anna's mentor. So uh, I did a research about that lady, about her life from very beginning, like how she get married, um, and all the way to her later stage, a lot like her later career as a therapist. So I did a lot of those research, and that helps. Even I did in the film, she's just a side character, but I mean all those sort of research helped me a lot to understand and to build my script because so that's all goes to like some of the investigators and also um, some of the therapists and also the patient's family. So everything around that event. So I kind of broader my range of research. Um, so a lot of reading. So and and I think that helped me a lot. I know it's kind of cliche to say, but I mean it's true. It's like sometimes making film is about film has some sort of magic power, and I don't know whether you get this in my film, but while I was making this film, no matter while I was writing or actually shooting this film, um, I think part of the story is about in your life, something happened and you feel is got to happen. And sometimes when you think back, you just can't find the answer, a clear answer. But no matter how hard you're trying to search for that answer, and you can't get it, and then one day you realize, oh, the weight of my life actually is built by those of unanswered part, and it's very powerful and it's kind of magic. And so that goes back to my relation with Skarsgård. Uh, so it's just like magic, and I just end up with them, and even I before I write a word, I contact Stellan because I get to know Stellan through a producer I know. Because by that time I really want to make this film, so I told that producer, I said, hey, do you know someone in Sweden? Because I really want to make this film in Sweden, and because it's a Swedish story, so I really want to go to Sweden, even I never been there before. And then the producer said, "Oh, there's only one person I know in Sweden. That's Stellan." So I wrote an email to him. I said, "Hey, Stellan, I'm an artist. I'm a Chinese artist. I just came across this story and I found it's very interesting. And I've been doing research for 6 months, and I really want to make this story into my first feature film. And then can we meet? Can I come over to Stockholm? Can we meet?" So that's how we met each other, and ever since we just become very close. And in the past 7 years, and kind of become part of the family. So I mean, sometimes things happen to you in your life, you don't know why, but there's some sort of magic power. I mean, we are all professional, so maybe before we shooting the film, um, so some people working around me, they're gonna say, "Oh, this is gonna be so interesting because the father and the son gonna play the um, criminal patient and then the investigator." So we're looking forward to what kind of thing can happen. Uh, but I mean, it all comes to the profession, and we all understand the story so well. So they're kind of like a father figure and a son, because in the story it is the police kind of looking for some sort of projection of father figure. So and he start to take care of him, start to uh, think for him, and sometimes do things for him, which he feel, okay, that's the best thing for you. Uh, Even we don't know whether that's true or not, but I mean, then things start to develop in the way of making the film. So I mean, uh, I don't know. I just feel it's very interesting to see them working together, and then how they understand the story, uh, and how I understand the story. So there of course there are gonna be difference, but while you're actually making the film, I think one thing is very important is because we are all work for that thing. So so we are all open to a lot of things to happen, difference. Um, and also you start to feel that sort of acceptance is like for each other. And no matter what we do, because at the end of the day, uh, it's very different compared to writing, because writing just myself, I can, I'm kind of like feel I'm so powerful because I can turn this character into this way, and I can turn this uh, next page, I can turn this character in that way. But actually, when you're filming, you have to allow things to happen. You have to give that to actor, and you have to trust them so they can trust you. We had so many conversations, just one on one, just like us now, because by that time, COVID is still a big thing for film production. So we can't do physical meeting. So a lot of meeting was over internet, but and also over emails. So we we just squeeze a lot of time to talk to each other, and so I think that helped a lot. When we get on set, we all feel it's like we know this project for so long, and that helps us a lot. I think first is because the nature of our creative process, because we put a team which is very international, and uh, like what we just discussed, uh, the focus of the film is no longer doing another investigation on the event. It's we start to we discovered something which is so important for us, which is the human emotion, and also those of gray area of human being. So I think for that part, it's very universal. And no matter where you come from, what kind of culture background, you can relate to that sort of you can relate to that sort of emotional connection, and it's very universal. So that's why we decide to use English. I also found it's very strange because everybody gonna think that's Chinese culture, but actually that's not. Because in China, no one eat fortune cookie, and when you say fortune cookie to Chinese, we just found it's so foreign. It's not our culture. So every time when I go to London or when I go to New York, any Chinese restaurant, old Chinese restaurant, those Cantonese Chinese restaurant, you always get fortune cookie. So I had my first fortune cookie in London. So that's not Chinese culture. Uh, but I love that fact is uh, when you crack that cookie, you discover a message, and that message tells you something. And uh, sometimes you just find out, okay, that's bullshit. But sometimes you might take a second to think about it. And I found it's very interesting. And then that goes back to how I introduce this character. I just found out, okay, it's so interesting, and it's such a shortcut. You can say it's shortcut to introduce a character from the very beginning. We know, okay, this old man, he doesn't know what's coming, or he has so many questions about his own life. And when you crack it, and there's no message. So I think I just found out, okay, that thing is without dialogue, but give you so many things to imagine. and to picture. So as an audience, we start to picture, we start to sculpt this character by ourselves because we have so many questions, and but also his every bit information you get is so concrete, and you get some sort of answer, but that sort of answer is not through language or dialogue. So I just found it, yeah, it's interesting. I spent a long time on making a mood board. So my mood board is over 100 pages. Even sometimes I don't know where we can shoot this, but I start to drag a lot of reference, or some of the reference maybe is relates to light, some is relates to color, and some is purely relates to mood, and some is relates to costume, and also material, uh, like oh, what kind of furniture we should put there, and and so texture of the film. So everything when you put together, and it's just like uh, become slowly. It's a very painful but long process. But slowly you start to discover the language of the film. Like you see a lot of reflection um, in our film. That's just part of the uh, core language of our film. And you see a lot of rain, a lot of glass, layered. Um, I think that's just our snow. That's how I find out just through a long process of research on the mood of the film. Fundamentally, we share the same thing, which is a lot of time when you under the idea of family, we make decisions not really based on truth or fact. We based on a lot of time. The decision was made by for each other, and also for ourselves. Sometimes being very selfish, and we just want others to do things for us, and it's hard, almost very impossible to explain that sort of emotional connection is. And sometimes we say things because I know that's something you want to hear, and that helps you, even that's not fact or truth. So I think that's very fundamental for all of us. We do that all the time inside the family, but in our film, uh, we just showed you a very dark side. I cannot say it's dark side, but it's it's very sad, um, and it's a very gray area of our human connection, but we can't ignore that. It happens all the time. Yeah. I watch all kinds of film, and um, and speaking about making film, I don't think I can repeat myself. Because I start my career as a filmmaker quite late because I didn't study film, and so I never I was before I didn't have that kind of chance to making film. So now I started. So and also my interest, I have a lot of things interest me. So like my second and my third film, they are completely different. Uh, and I found it's a great fun to do different things, and then in a way you can give it all in one project, so you don't have to repeat yourself.